World by Bike, which is our sort of plight to ride the bikes around the world, really started in 2001, and where are we now? 7. We've got another 3 years to go of doing these trips, and neither of us have been to Africa, and you've got to do it. If you're doing the world, you've got to do Africa, and we've done India and the Himalayas and China and Central Asia, and so it was just Africa's turn. When we arrived in Capetown, picked up the bikes, unpacked them out of the container, we thought, well, we've got a couple of days while we're getting everything going on the bikes and the spare time, and so we went out to Robben Island to see where Mandela had been imprisoned. That's all great, up to the top of the tabletop mountain, that's great. Now what do?
We went out to this township, which was right on the outskirts, and a lot of people had come from all over Africa to this township, and there they sort of lived in little hovels and lean-tos and crowded into a very small area.
And there were rats running around, you know, in between the children and so on, and yet we got a tour through the place. One of the local guys was pretty entrepreneurial and he set up tours.
And I don't think I would be running a successful business operation in this community if people were not smiling, if people were not opening their hearts, if people could not open their doors wide.
So you get into the houses and meet the locals and all that. That was great. So you'd make a few bob. So I don't know what the time was, about 10, 12 o'clock in the morning. There's quite a bit of alcohol being drunk at that time. They're pretty idle, these guys.
Population, more and more people coming here. We're no longer living in a designated area. For instance, this section across the road was not at all meant for housing. It was never serviced. There's something like 1,000 people living in this section, and there's only 6 toilets, 6 public toilets, and 2 water taps for these people.
And so you'd ask them about their lives, and a lot of them had come down from northern Africa, even as far as Somalia. And they regarded, you know, South Africa as absolutely, you know, the epitome of getting ahead, even though they didn't have jobs. And it was all on expectations. They expected that they would get a job at some stage, they would have employment and things would, because at least there was a chance in South Africa. There's nobody chance in Somalia.
90% of the people living in this township, they were not born here. Right. They were born somewhere else. People who live in this township come from South Africa, countryside, rural areas where there is no work. So people are like animals. They don't stay they don't remain in an area that's dry, for sure. They will want to descend until they find a fit for them.
I just couldn't believe the size of the rats. They were the only rats we saw in Africa were there, and they were absolutely huge. And we sort of chatted to some of the locals because, you know, especially about the health implications of things like that, and they said, oh, there was some, you know, Irish people came at one stage and they helped us get rid of the rats. But there didn't seem to be that follow through. I suppose you're so desperate to get a job and continue, make some money, that you don't perhaps look at your immediate living surroundings, but it was horrific conditions for kids to be living in.